All right. Well,
So what we're just going through, we're going through three different or two different topics, but the third one I guess is merging them, but makes its own. So number one was emotional awareness and psychology, and number two was personal development and tools that help with personal development. So being the best version of us, and then which I know they kind of coexist, and then go into
there'll be some overlaps.
Yeah,
There'll be some overlaps.
but let's try and break down what we just went through.
Well, we started with a video. A video that I watched recently was Jordan Peterson talking to someone about how psychology relates to entrepreneurship and business, and then we both watched it, and what we came away with, his main point was there are in two different types of jobs. Okay, there you have simple jobs, which is usually a simple job is something that there's one thing to be learned, one skill set to be learned, and once you learn it, you can repeat it non-stop. Okay, so that's things such as warehousing, which I've done, working in a supermarket,
Like manual labor sort of stuff.
anything with one step.
Yeah.
Here, there's a predictor of success in that area is conscientiousness, and that was the primary predictor of success. So he's got conscientiousness.
What would you say conscience?
So just being conscious of, let's look at the description so I don't butcher it, but I would say it's being conscious here.
I wrote down here, it was saying something about caring about what you're doing.
Yeah, and also about
yeah.
other things.
Caring about what the task at hand. So if I'm conscious of it, I'm aware that I'm doing it, and I also care that I'm doing it.
Wishing to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. That, of course, is a good predictor. That prevents people from, misdemeanors in work, not showing up, being late, and other things that predict success there is being orderly. So if they're not doing those things, if they're not being conscientious, they'll feel a sense of guilt towards it. So it's clearly why me and you struggle in these types of roles, because we lack care about the work when often I'm doing it for a company that's a big company that I don't have any care for. Like when I work at Toll, never really tried too much. And then you've got complex jobs. Okay, complex is you cannot learn it once and for all. It's always evolving. Okay, these usually CEOs, people in those different positions. Now, entrepreneurs, their predictor of success is usually IQ and trait openness, and this is similar to artists, is what Jordan Peterson says. So a predictor of success for entrepreneurs is the characteristics that artists have as well. They share some of these things. This also is a reason why they share some political alignments due to some of their similar psychological traits. For example, this is something that a lot of people in business and with that kind of self-motivation will resonate with. Entrepreneurs are lateral thinkers. So let's say you hear an idea, okay, and bang, that'll spark off a chain of other ideas, and you are motivated to pursue those new ideas. Okay, so you hear something, information, idea, it sparks off other ideas. Your interest is mainly in, your motivation is mainly your interest in pursuing those ideas. And he goes, your downfall is usually organizational ability, administrative ability, things that, for myself included, and for both of us with similarities, we both have struggled with, is like, those are the factors that can kind of like hold you back a little bit. So those lateral thinkers are usually those who start the company and grow it. And as the company grows, having that balanced out with people that have those organizational qualities, the right type of admin, that's when a company really starts to flourish and grow. As long as that balance is maintained, you can't have either going out of whack.
Yeah, and that's where not the debate. This is where the second category comes into that, because if I understand my personal psychology and emotions of who I am at a stock standard me, then I have my strengths and I have my weaknesses, and everyone does. But to be able to realize them and lose all my humility, let go of my ego, this is where my personal development comes into it. Because if I can do that, and let's say we're growing a brand or a business, and we're both very good cultivating ideas. We see them, we see the opportunity, and we start. Bang!
Yeah.
It's out there quick, like as shown with this podcast. You know what I mean? But then it sort of takes, because we both sort of have very similar strengths and weaknesses, but it's almost like we need that third party in that's that very type A, ordered and structured, finishes a task, like starts it and finishes the task and then moves on.
And
but for us, we think so
organising-
quickly, you know, we're bouncing around the joint. But if we find, and we know that that's our weakness, we get someone to fill the blanks for us.
So there we go with our first, our first what we have called and termed mental tool. So that is self-analysis. So this is what me watching that video is what sparked my own thoughts on this. Okay, I watched that video and I realized the reason I searched for that type of video, I was searching for psychology. I've been interested in psychology and emotions and figuring out more about my own psychology, my own psychological traits, my own behavioral habits, my own emotions, and finding that area as a great one to delve into. Came across this, and from there you find out some mental tools. So once you realize that personality traits are a thing, and that different psychological makes up of each person will give you strengths and weaknesses, then you start to undergo the process of how do I change this? So for me, it was, okay, when I did that self-analysis and I said, okay, I have some traits like high energy, motivated, good at cultivating ideas, like you said. These are things that we do and we do easily, naturally. Where are the areas that I struggle with? Early on from high school, probably organizational stuff, anything to do with admin, with all our businesses, anything to do with admin. Focus was a massive one, realizing my focus was really poor and my attention span was really short, easily distracted. I said, okay, let's focus on these things. So that's the power of a tool like self-analysis. Being able to figure out strengths and weaknesses and then go off on there. And that's why, like, I've identified them as a headwind. So if you're running, let's say on a 100-meter track, if you have a tailwind, so a wind blowing from behind you, it's going to assist you in those micro
Push
seconds.
you forward, yeah.
It'll push you forward. You have a headwind, a wind going against you, it'll make it a little harder. You'll have some resistance. There'll be some barriers there. So I saw my strengths as my tailwind, things pushing me forward, high energy, idea creation, whatnot. And then the headwind, so the barriers were focus, organization. And as soon as I started working on those things, straight away I saw instant improvement in ways that I hadn't really seen before.
It's like when you shine a light on something, and now you can see it for what it is. It's also what I was talking about the other day is that lately at my girlfriend's house we do like a highs and lows of the week, and now we've been added in like a sin and a virtue. And if you're not aware of the 7 deadly sins, they also have 7 virtues, and you can look them up what they are. And I was saying that, not to try and fit anyone in a box, but if you want real results, I think you need to be A and B with things. So if you had to assign yourself with one sin, you would also assign yourself with one virtue, because you have a pro and a negative, like a pro and a con for everything. And then we identified that mine would probably be lust, but then my virtue would be respect. Do you know what I mean? And then your sin would be pride, but your virtue would be
self-confidence.
You know what I mean? And then people perceive that how they're going to perceive that. But usually we led into this as well, that if I have if your sin is pride and someone is that like jealous of you and they say you're arrogant and this and that, well, their sin's probably envy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's usually what you dislike is actually your weakness.
And the virtue that you could have from envy might be a little bit, might also be respect and kindness towards others.
That's true, yeah.
But then they're all interrelated.
Yeah.
It's so funny how that works. But this all came from me focusing on...
Oh, thanks.
This all came from... This all came from me focusing on flaws. And then from there I realized, okay, self-analysis is something that we've both done before, like just reflecting on ourselves and then writing in a journal. But when I did it with the purpose of discovering flaws, and discovering strengths, it's good because I was able to be pretty honest with myself and you can also ask people close to you for what they think are good and bad things. But that's one tool right there. Self-analysis with the purpose and aim of finding the areas you're going to work on.
Yeah.
For example, as soon as I started focusing on the weaknesses, I began number one with focus. Okay, people that know me know, I can lose focus, and not in terms of lose focus in a certain way. Lose focus and jump onto the next. I have many areas of focus that I jump between. I'm like, okay, think about this idea, and the next, and then the next. That makes it hard to get things done that require you to focus. Okay, outside of fighting, which is when it's time to training, it's training. I don't really lose focus. I'm just training. It's like, okay, how do I harness that? So I looked at meditating. Because that's just what I searched up, how to improve focus. Straight away, you'll find it yourself. It says meditating, which I'd done before, but not for that reason. I was like, okay, how? Just following your breath, doing different mental reps, in trying to monitor your attention, see when it goes off somewhere, and then bring it back. So just focusing on my breathing is where I started. Anytime so focus on following my breathing. Anytime my thoughts deviated and went on to a new topic or a new subject, no stress, focus on the breathing again. And just keep doing that for a certain period of time. Very simple exercise.
The mental reps.
Mental rep.
It has to be, it's an exercise.
It's an exercise. Yeah. And it's the same way you build anything is the same way you build everything.
That's true.
The same reps and the same structure applies. You have to stress outside of your current ability and then give time to relax and recover. So that's what I did with that. It helped me focus for sure. I didn't know how it would. I'm like, how is that going to apply? I'm just going to be working and my focus will be better. It just works because when I was focusing and when I decided to work, I would say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. And I would keep repeating that to myself. And every time my attention went somewhere else, I would catch myself because you're focusing on catching yourself and you're bringing it back. So that helped massively. And then the organization I'd been onto, because I identified that late last year as well. So I had a planner from December onwards, which I planned in every week, and I had slowly but surely improved that. Together, I saw some progress straight away, and that's very rare that I discover like these tools from whatever place that you apply, and it's like, oh, there you go, that helped straight away. Focus.
It's never really something that's so profound. It's usually those simple things that you hear 1,000 times but you never implemented. Yeah. And then you do, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, of course.
Or use it a different way.
Yeah, you know, you're like, fuck, well, yeah, of course it works. It's timeless. People talk it all the time, and for a reason, you know.
Yeah. But yeah.
So then we went into through the emotions. This was both because we're very similar in the fact that sometimes we just get so amped up and so jacked up with these ideas, and they're just running rampant in our heads. And then when you try and write it down, and I've had this problem a lot, that I try and write the thoughts down that I'm having, but I'm thinking too quickly for my hand or for my mouth, and I can't say it the way it's actually in my head. And I can't write it down fast enough because I'm thinking other thoughts while I'm writing it. And when I write it down, it's not the way that it's supposed to be in my head. I'm not satisfied with this. And then we were talking about how an artist paints a painting. And when they paint that painting, obviously it starts with an image in their head. And how well that they can get the image from their head onto the canvas really determines how good of an artist they are. And I think the same thing. I'm like, well, it's the same with all my ideas. Everything that I put out there, sometimes I just put it out there just like, yeah, I know I can be better, but I didn't there. But in my head, I can be better. And it's like, well, the world's objective and they only see what I put out. So if I'm not putting out the best of me, am I really the best of me or not? You know, am I really as good as I think I am?
It's like it's there, but the thing to work on is how to get it out there. Yeah. It's already there.
Be the best artist. Yeah. Put it out there. The as close as it's in my mind, put it out there.
And even just with idea creation, because like Troy said to us, Troy, our coach that we mentioned a few times and mentor and brother, he's like, look, if an idea floats into the head or an idea is there, it needs to be captured, because if it's not captured, it's gone and you've missed out on all. I think ideas are bits of potential, and there you go, you're gonna miss out on that. So how to catch them is key. So I hate the feeling of having thought of an idea, being like, wow, that's a great idea. Like, I'd even like to explore it just for the fun of exploring such a good idea, and then 10 minutes later, what was I thinking about? Oh. And then you just have to move on.
Yeah.
So what I developed and what we've both started doing has just been to, of course, start trying to write things down. But that's been a bit of an issue. So I started recording. I could be in a car, I could be with a friend, I could be anywhere, and I'll think of an idea, and I'll just develop the habit. I'll just tell Siri to pull up voice memos, and then I'll record a voice memo about my idea. And I'll do this however many times it happens, and then towards the end of the week or whenever I have a spare moment and I've got some time to fill, I'll say, okay, well, sometime what I did was actually schedule this in tonight. I'm going to do that because I had a few piled up. Go over my voice memos, just press play, listen to it, and as I'm listening to it, it's refreshing things in your head because you're remembering it the same way you explained it. And I'll go over and start writing like a little mind map or just some dot points on each idea. Delete that note, onto the next. Go onto the next.
And that's key, because that's key with personal development as well, and realizing your strengths and weaknesses is because I had the same problem. And at first I was trying to type or write it because I had to get it out quickly. You know? And the first thing I do is pull out the notes and I write them, or if I've got paper or my hand, whatever. But they're just short and brief, you know. But then when you said, I can't believe I didn't know that about the voice memos. Because sometimes it's easier to talk. Use the tool, you know.
It's not used anymore. People don't do that. Like, I think there was a time
I used to record myself in the car and say it, and then I'm like, this is gay, why am I making a video? Because then even just that would deter me from saying it the way it's in my head. Because I know I'm being filmed now.
It's just the net to catch. It's just the net to catch the idea real quick. It's like,
and then when you do catch it, like you said, you have to review it later on when you're not so frantic. And then you start writing it down. It's more coherent, and you can explain it better, you know, which is better for. We sat down for like maybe an hour before this, breaking down all these ideas. And if we recorded that, it would have sounded like rubbish because we're just bouncing around.
But to us, it's coming together.
Yeah, it's coming together. Now it's in front of us, you know, and then now we talk about it. Okay, this is where this came from, and this idea leads to this, and you know, I can see my thought pattern, and it's sort of cool to see, like, man, my mind's running so rampant so quickly, and then it's also good to be like, oh, okay, let's catch myself. And let's observe myself observing, you know, which is the whole mantra for meditation, you know. And
that's, honestly, meditation is something I'm still going down and trying to learn heaps more on in terms of that part of meditating. Because earlier I did meditation just because everyone was doing it. So I knew there was a definite value there. Okay, these guys did it at a high level and they gave reasons for it. Improved focus, allowed you to step back. But I didn't really absorb those reasons. I said, those are great reasons, let me start. And of course I got some value. But when I did it from this standpoint, starting with focus, I used it first as a tool to develop focus, found value in that. Through that, moved on to more, like, to different types of meditation, and then found real value in meditation. I'm still learning heaps in that regard. But as a tool, I can speak on 100%. It worked for me. 100%, and is working for me.
And you have to have that, like we just said, how you want to improve your focus. It's so important to have an intention before you go into it. Otherwise you get distracted too easy. But if I say, I'm going to meditate because I'm very frantic at the moment, I need to calm myself down. Okay. All right, that's my intention. So when I sit down, it's okay if, you know, everything happens, I'm going to lose track of my thoughts, but as long as I keep coming back to just be calm, stay calm, 20 minutes later I'm calm and my intention was this, I achieved it. You were successful. It might have been hard, but you were successful.
That's the goal.
And whatever it is, maybe my intention to meditate was because I want to visualize my success in this. Okay, so, do that.
From meditating, something that is related, but it didn't come from meditating, my focus on it came elsewhere, from self-improvement. I came across breathing, and then of course how much the breath and your breath has an impact on so many different areas, including your emotions, including your health, including your focus. And I started doing some like cold water immersion as a part of that. So when I was focusing on the meditating, I saw people focusing on their breath. That led me down to cold water immersion. I'm like, let me try that. Okay, so I started doing that, going down to the beach and sitting in the cold water when it gets real cold. And I found some benefit. But then I had a funny moment, like I was telling you about, and this moment kind of reflects how emotions are so significant, and how emotions are not just significant for the sake of being emotions, but because they can affect you in real time, real situations, in ways people can understand, like health. Negative emotions can affect you in those areas. So what I did was I was down at the beach at Willietown Beach, as I have been. I was going to go for a swim in the ocean, and as I was swimming further ahead than usual, I felt something like touch my leg, and that's never really worried me too much because I've been swimming there like a fair bit and swimming whatever. But for some reason, that hit my leg and it was like a solid push, yeah. And I was like, "There's something in here," but I knew that there was nothing. I'm like, it can't be anything. It can't be. The chances of it being something is nothing. But even though I knew that, I still was reacting badly. And because maybe the meditation has helped be aware, I was seeing it happen. And I felt my heart rate increase more and more. And then I'm like, okay, relax, let's turn around and get out of the water. And as you turn around and went to swim, I started swimming frantically. And it just escalated. And that has not happened to me only time in my life I remember that happening. That didn't even happen to me in Thailand when I was stuck there. It was like ages ago. Like I would have been like 11, like first real solid confrontation like that and reacting crazy. And I was thinking, this is fucked. And I'm like, I just get out the water and I sat there and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm at a weird place right now because I had just in the past few days been reading about emotions and emotional hijacks through the amygdala. So I knew kind of what was happening, okay? My amygdala had sensed some sort of danger and it triggered some responses. So I'm like, okay, now that you know, you should be able to act on it. And Felicia came out of the car just thinking I was like, had finished my session, my cold water session. And I was like, no, I'm going to go back in. Just because I knew to myself, I'm like, again, with the idea of a mental rep, I'm like, okay, I've experienced this and I've thought about it and that's good. And it's told me that there's no issue. So I know that. So I need to push myself now to go back out in the ocean and just swim and give it a shot. And it was actually harder to do that than I had really thought. I thought I was pretty good at just crushing that emotion by just anytime I want to do something and I don't feel like doing it, I've been pretty good at doing that. And I'm like, this is another one of those situations, but because of my amygdala, it's made it a little harder for me to go back out into the water, which is weird. I'm looking at them like I've just been here like daily. I go, do it, and maybe that's a testament to some of the previous mental reps. Went in there, swam out, not as far as before, but like far enough to see the same area. I'm like, just go over to that area, turn around and swim back. But even on the swim back, it was like as soon as I turned around to swim back and I turned my back to the open ocean, and people know I don't have an aversion to water and like in the ocean and swimming. I love it actually. I start swimming back because I know that there are still, and I'm like getting a little bit faster. I'm like, get back to the shore faster. Never happened to me ever in my life and all the times I've been swimming in the ocean. And I was like, this is a classic example of how emotions can impact you and impact your decision making, impact how you physically feel, how you physically are. An emotion triggers release of different chemicals and hormones. So, of course, there's a physical change. That was just one example that I thought I'd share. Yeah.
And that we got that based from, we learned about this whole amygdala and emotional hijacking from the book Emotional Intelligence by
Daniel Goleman.
And it speaks about that.
Yeah,
and he says, you know, the difference between people's IQ is realizing that, yeah, for sure, most of our brain is controlled by the amygdala, and we are very emotional thinkers. We're still very primitive. And then the only reason that we're separated from every other animal is because we have another part of our brain, the neocortex or whatever. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But we think and we analyze and we get away from that primitiveness, you know? And then for you to have that primitive response, which is really just a defense mechanism, you know, to help us survive. But for you to have that touch, the unknown touch in the water, you sparked a primitive feeling in your brain. And then for you to get out and be like, okay, what was that really? Probably nothing. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm okay. I'm safe. You know, then you're working through your IQ and then you go back in and you deal with it, you know, and that's so important because like you said, it's a mental rep, and that's a mental rep in the ocean where everything's still pretty safe with what you did. But let's say you have another mental rep in another day and another day and another day. And if you're not actively going through the process of that thought pattern, then you're no better off the first time than you are the last, you know?
And it's like, I got to reflect on it just this morning, 6:30 a.m. I was out there again. And it's funny because the past few times I've been out there, I've gone out and it's just, I've laughed at myself because I'm gone, done the regular thing, swam further than that time, than that shit happened, whatever. And I laugh at myself, I'm swimming, I'm like, you know what, go further. There's no fear, it's back to normal, like going fucking wherever. I couldn't even get caught in a rip, who fucking knows. I'm just going further. And then I come back and I sit there and I'm like, that's so weird that happened that other time, because it just shows you that it's a real thing. Emotions trigger physical reactions and they impact you in real time. So what you can get from that is to try and monitor your emotions and to pay attention and to understand that they have an impact on your health. Things that are commonly known. One thing I saw, David Snowden, an epidemiologist, conducted some studies on how chronic negative emotions relate to disease. Okay, his main one was stress and heart disease and heart failures and things of that nature. And that one is widely believed and widely, people believe that because of the evidence. But it's not just stress, it's other emotions. Anything negative is going to make it harder for you to operate. So if you need to operate well, you need to understand that you operate best from a different set of emotions. And there are emotions that will make you operate maybe less effectively. They still serve a purpose in survival, and you need to keep some of those parts. But
they can't be dominant.
They can't be dominant. They can't be dominant. They
That's
can't
true.
Control everything.
Well, that's it. There's proof alone that, you know how like when I've seen cases with elephants, how they get so depressed when a loved one or a baby dies that they'll go into a deep depression where they starve themselves to death. You know what I mean? So it's exactly that. An emotion that made a decision that impacted my physical health, and I suffer consequences, both good and bad, because if I have a positive framework for thinking, it's sort of like where the whole law of attraction comes from. I have positive ideas and thoughts, and then they manifest into physical realities. And I'm not saying that this is magic, because if it's consistent, it's, if I'm going to make $1 million, I'm going to do the things that get the reward, you know what I mean? Because I have the framework of thinking. And then vice versa. If I'm cynical, I do the things and I get the reward of being cynical thoughts to cynical occurrences in my life, And
you also realize, in tying this back to that first tool of self-analysis, you see that, okay, there are some emotions you might have a certain habit or a certain tendency to fall into easier than others. An easy one that everyone can have some experiences of, you would have known, whatever, that kid in school that got angry way easier. Okay, that can be a habit that develops, and it's not a good habit. It doesn't serve you well. When does anger serve you? If you're getting provoked, if you think in terms of like instincts and whatnot, as an animal, it's being provoked, it needs to defend, so that anger will help you to be more ferocious and do those certain things. But you realize there are times where that's the complete wrong emotion for you to use to get things done, and it'll cause you to do other things. Daniel Goleman has a great saying on an amygdala hijack, where he says, so amygdala is a sentinel of the brain, how he describes it. Everything that happens runs past the amygdala real quick, and it scans it to see if it's a danger or not. And if it thinks it's a big enough danger, it'll override the neocortex, it'll override everything, and it'll provoke some sort of reaction.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. Okay, that's what will happen. So,
which is important, because then you have to run it past the neocortex, because let's say, because this is we're so primitive, and we forget that, because it's a new age world. Things are moving quickly, but our brains aren't catching up. You know what I mean? We still got these primitive thoughts. So when it sparks a fight or flight response, it could have just been that someone yelled at me at work or something.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And it made me real hot-headed and alarmed, and now I want to fight someone. But it's probably not the smartest thing to do in a workplace or anywhere for that matter. We know there's consequences for doing that. You know what I mean? But it also serves a purpose, you know what I mean? Because if someone did that to me on the street and that was a very serious threat, I would want that there. Yeah. I don't want to take that away, because then I won't think it's serious, and then next minute I've been injured. You know?
They serve you in different ways, and you realize that you will operate better from different emotional standpoints than from always the same one. So
true.
That's such a benefit, and that ties back to self-analysis. Just to kind of analyze yourself and say, okay, what are some emotions that I fall into consistently? Maybe it's sadness, maybe it's anger, maybe it's depression.
And they're both, like we say, they have their pros and cons, and they have their time and place. But I was thinking as well, because your same anecdote with the swimming and feeling the thing on the water, and I had the anecdote where I had an incident at work where whatever, back and forth between me and another guy, and I'm not sure if we're going to fight or whatnot. But then it's the same process, because me and like a habit throughout my life, I feel like there's been times where something will happen and my initial response isn't always fight. I sometimes think about it, and people might view this as a pro or a con depending on who you are. Exactly. For me, I feel like it's a con. Someone might be the complete opposite and be like, yeah, that's smart, you're doing the right thing. You're analyzing what's the right thing to do, and I think about the whole process of my course of actions. And then, but most of the time I'm thinking, no, I'm probably better off, and I want to know that I can do it. I can,
like when you crave for
flick the switch, that's it. You've crossed the line. I don't care about the results or the consequences. You crossed me, you know what I mean? And now we fight, and I want to know that that's there. I want to know that I can do that. And I found out that I can. I didn't end up fighting him, but I know that it's there.
That's good.
Physically and mentally. And because you have to have that. You can't be like, you can't be a complete pushover. You have to have, a man has to be a man. Yeah. And a woman has to be a woman. It's
your choice. You select what it is that you want. And
exactly.
If that doesn't fit in line with what you think is beneficial to you and what you want, then you can discard it. But the point is to observe it first and then see, okay, that is what I want. Don't just let it happen, which is what we've done. We've both done. We've both had those situations. You analyze it and be like, you know what, like, I'm keeping this because I'm just going to maybe refine it and set my lines where I want to.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that I can do this. And it's good to know that this is my reaction and that I can choose that when I need to, instead of just letting it happen.
Yeah. Because this is where the personal development comes into. Because if I don't do... Everyone, I think, has an ideal version of who they want to be. Some sort of idea, yeah? And obviously we want to be the best that we can be. And we're not quite there yet, you know what I mean? But in order to get there, I have to make these uncomfortable decisions and I have to act on them when the time arises. Because it's usually in the fire of things that we overanalyze and we hesitate. But I know it's uncomfortable and it sucks, it's scary, but you have to do it there and then.
Yeah.
You have to fight through it, and once you are done with it, you're like, oh shit, I actually can do that, I'm becoming the person because I'm doing the thing.
In fact, you already are. That's the thing about potential. Not to get super drawn off track, but that's potential because if you think about potential as anything that can be, then it already is anything. So you just select now. What is the difference between someone that decides not to fight and someone that decides to fight? They both could have done either choice, but you pick. I pick and set my lines as, if you go too far sometimes, that's it. Then that's kind of those own lines. And you have similar lines. And then sometimes it's like, early on, like maybe a few years ago, I realized, that's when I started first into self-development. I was like, that's something I do. I kind of go straight to that extreme. I don't like that. And I tried doing the opposite. Then I didn't like it. And I was like, no, it's not good for some things that I like and value. And it also comes to self-image. It's a matter of, no, that's not what I aspire as think about now. The current thing is like, as a king, don't want to be one that is easily pushed over and think if the castle is attacked or under siege, you have to respond and you have to be able to. That's a depiction of how I went about that process. That's a good
mental image to have because it gives you sort of a structure and a framework for how you would think and act. Yeah. Sometimes think like wait, you watched the movie King?
No, watch the movie The King on Netflix. It's a good movie. Yeah. You
watched it? What's his name? Chamberlain, the English guy.
Yeah.
That was a sick movie. Exactly that. Yeah. Because like how it was his father. He didn't want to act. He didn't want to be like. He's the delinquent prince, and then he rises to power and he acts accordingly with who he is.
And he grows through the process, and he makes mistakes through the process. He's manipulated a little bit, but I think when you watch a movie like that, you get what you want out of it. And from what I know we both would have got out of it, I was looking at it and I was thinking like, this is a perfect depiction of the trials and tribulations that come up, and sometimes the mistakes that you make because you got manipulated hardcore. It's like it's like it's not necessarily your fault, even though the actions are yours. It's just a lack of understanding and stuff. It is what happened. And then you have to say to yourself, okay, like he did, what am I going to do about it? And he did. He iced that guy and he moved on.
Yeah.
And he made the best out of a situation. if he was to dwell there, imagine how he could have reacted when he found out he'd been duped and manipulated. He could have been like, he could have killed himself. He could have went crazy. But he's like, you can see it all happening. Like, damn.
You see it unfold.
This happened, that happened, this happened. This is how I'm going to react to it. And bang, there you go. You got to do that sometimes. You got to just say, okay, this is what happened. This is how I am going to react to it. And this is how I'm going to make the best and how I'm going to move forward from whatever the situation is now. Simple.
Yeah.
But that's where we got that from.
Yeah, it's important. And it's important to do it regardless of what... Sometimes there's always going to be consequences, good and bad. And sometimes you sort of have to weigh it out and be like, it's worth making an enemy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you can't be liked by everyone. And if you are, you're fake anyway because you're catering yourself to individuals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're going to be the person that you are fully and unapologetically, which is, I guess, one of the biggest traits I admire because I'm envious of it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be me, unfiltered, unscripted to everybody. And I think about this a lot where I think it's the whole Instagram culture.
Yeah.
That everyone wants to portray an image of who they are and who they think that people like them to be. But I just kept thinking about it lately because if you look now, I think I follow maybe 200 people, 250 people. I'm cutting it down because I'm caring less and less about who's trying to influence me. I want to influence me, you know what I mean? Like, entertain me. Whatever, this is just a canvas. I put it out there. I don't care who you are. I'm not affiliated with any brands anyway. So why am I catering myself to you? You know what I mean?
Like,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can say that to yourself. Like, I don't care. But so, if I don't care, why am I doing that then? You do care a little bit, you know?
You do care a little bit. That's another thing to explore that and be like, okay, well, I'm putting this out because I want to show this. And then you got to explore, why do I want to show this?
Yes, you have to ask.
Then you go down it, and then you find, okay, you might like the reason, you might not like the reason. Either way, it's a choice, and you choose it, and you got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not going to put it out then, or you be like, okay, well, I will put it out then. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a little thought process that I like to call kill it until it's dead.
Kill it until it's dead.
Yes, because let's say I go down a rabbit hole of thought, like that. Yeah. I don't care what people think, but then I'm like, all right, well, do I or do I not? And then I question my own question. Okay, why do I care? Oh, I care because of this. Is that really a bad thing? Oh, no, it's not. You know what I mean? I'm answering my questions and I'm getting deeper and deeper, and then I'll eventually come to an end. And I'm like, okay, it turns out my decision is I don't care, and because I don't care, I do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I've killed the thought pattern until it's dead.
That's a very good way to do it. I like that.
And I think
it's a good way to blot those ones out sometimes when they come up, because if you ignore it and be like, and make your decision anyway, or you make your decision too early without exploring it, you miss out on some value you get from that. And it's a good tool to even just self-explore.
Exactly.
Just to self-explore constantly and to try and really get down to the bottom of
who I am,
your emotions, who you are, what you're thinking, why you're thinking it. Whether you get there or not, the tool is the attempt. That's where the benefit is. Yeah.
I have a good anecdote about that.
Yeah.
Because this has never happened before, and it did happen, and I was very shocked.
Yeah.
And I was sort of caught off guard because I think I'm a little bit grey in some areas. And I remember two anecdotes again. I remember back in high school where they gave us a quiz. They were doing a bit of market research, and they said, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how do you feel about this and that? And she said, don't worry about the 2 to 9. She said, answer 1 or 10, because a 5 or anything in between isn't giving me a yes or a no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't count. I throw it away anyway. So she says, you're either 1 or 10. And I'm like, that's how I want to be with everything. Not in the middle. Yeah. Because everyone's easy. It's easy to be in the middle. It's easy to say, oh, well, maybe, you know, but yes or no, black or white. It's an
easy way out sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I say, you know, it's black or white. And to be that black or white, I think that kill it until it's dead methodology is important, because if I say, coming back to my really first anecdote, so he asked me, because we were talking to this guy and he says, I'm like, yeah, I'm Italian, whatever. And he's like, oh, are you Christian? I'm like, you know, my family, they're Catholics, but I'm not, I don't have that belief. And he says, why? What's your belief then? And I was sort of caught off guard because I'm like, oh, I guess I have faith in a higher power. I'm not sure. I was very grey about it, you know, and I think a lot of people are, but no one's 100% sure. Some are, some aren't. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm sort of in that grey area of what my belief is. And then I thought, why? How dare I be grey about that? It's so important to know. And I thought, wow, he caught me off guard. And then I'm like, I didn't know it at the time, but I have to sit down and kill it until it's dead. Whatever, if it's right or wrong, but have my belief. What do I think it is? And I have to go through that thought process, question and answer my own questions, and ask myself. And then I come to an end, right or wrong, this is my conclusion. I believe this, doesn't matter what you think, and I act accordingly because of this.
Yeah. That's a fantastic point, because like I said, it's a great way to hammer the nail in.
Yeah.
And nails, oh fuck, I'm gonna go off a tangent. Pull up some shit house analogy. A nail is, that's what I was gonna say, like, a nail is not gonna do much help to anything if you're using it to hang anything off, if it's just kind of half in. It's either fucking properly in, or it's just don't put it in at all.
That's true.
Yeah, that could be fucking...
it works. Because I like that. Yeah. I think it's really creative when people pull off a good analogy.
Yeah.
And even if they pulled off a shit one, I'm like, you know what? I get what you're saying. You know, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I love catching a shit analogy.
But a good one is just as funny, you know?
Yeah.
No, that's good. That makes sense. They used to do that in sales. When I used to work in sales, they would always try and spark up a morning meeting, and they'd get everyone fired up. And they'd be like, making money is like playing golf, you know? You gotta take a swing and hit it, or you don't, and they're saying about your pitching, you know, like, you're in or you're out your pitch. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one, I understand it.
There's so many values. Look, honestly, we're gonna go off on tangents, but that's fine. Like, when I think back on like the short 23, 24 years we've had here, I go, we've done fucking a fair bit, we've done a lot, and along the way we've learned a fair amount of things. And I think this generation has that advantage, because not only do we have the old generation to learn from, but we have so many other opportunities. We have technology, we have resources in front of us, people that have a great mindset for thinking, have put their stuff out there available to people to just kind of research and learn from. And at the same time, we learn from work and we learn from life in general. So like, it's a tangent, the reason I decided to go off on, because it's worth bringing up.
Yeah.
There's so many things available to our generation and people who exist right now, not just our generation, but people who exist right now. There's so many resources.
Unique.
So
it's
unique.
Never been this. It's
ever.
We are our generation specifically we're so in between, like, because we've seen what happened before the technology. All our parents and grandparents are not stuck, but they are products of the past. Yeah. And then the future is unfolding in front of us, and we're in the middle where we see
brothers and sisters that we see with technology all the time, laptops, computers, and
they don't understand what the past was like. You know, we've got both.
So
it's so unique and powerful because we have the choice to make a decision. You know?
This kind of setting that we're in right now, and that this setting is, let's say, from like 30 years, from maybe let's say 20 years ago to like maybe whenever this ends. Let's just put a number on it, being like 20 years from now or 50 years from now. This period of time is going to bring forth so many interesting and creative things and people, because what else? This setting is designed to do that. This is what I'm just thinking about it now. When I researched, or when I had studied history in school, and you would learn about the Industrial Revolution, and then you learn about these different settings and how they think. We're living through one of the greatest technological revolutions. They're probably one of the greatest revolutions in terms of technology. The
foundation, the beginnings of it. Yeah,
and it's going to create some things. This is why it's important to self-analyze. So we always find a way to tie it back, but it's true. It's important to self-analyze, because if you don't, you'll just be a product of the things that that this like revolution will provide, such as easily accessible things, content at your fingertips, ability to change between things. What does that equal? Low attention. People that have ADHD are already struggling, but it's like the whole world has had like a small dose of ADHD now, or ADD anyway, because it's like all your attention spans are being kind of crafted towards like
consuming.
Towards consuming, but your attention span, let's say if it started off like this when there were not many things to do, it's like you're cleaning the house, or you're going to work, or you're sitting at home reading your newspaper with the family, to like a multitude, so many other things. Your attention span is now naturally just getting shorter and shorter and shorter, because you're so used to. Think about the patience we have when something doesn't load for like 2 seconds. Like if it doesn't load for like 3 seconds, I'm already getting antsy. I'm like, fuck, like this thing is so fucking slow.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? 3 seconds though. 3 seconds for a wealth of information. Let's say you're searching up a topic. It's 3-4 seconds, a page doesn't load. God forbid it's a fucking 30-second wait. You feel something's wrong. Because why? It's not really our fault. Something is wrong. Things really they load much faster. This is the world we live in. But if you think about it, you know that it's such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But your attention span, your level is just fucking...
Yeah.
Like, what? Because you're used to that instant gratification of, okay, there it is.
Which can be a problem.
Which can be a big problem. So if you self-analyze and you notice these things, at least you're aware of it. And when you're aware of it, you can start trying to make efforts at improving.
Yeah. And upgrading your character. You know what I mean?
When you do that,
exactly that.
fuck. What else can you do?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the game is life, you know.
Simple as.
This is the game. We are the characters, and then we have to analyze before you can improvise and get better, you know. Because otherwise, it's sort of like if I don't have a map and I'm trying to go somewhere, so what am I really trying to do? You know what I mean? I have to have that goal and the intention of, I know me, I know who I am, and I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I know what I need to work on, and then I go and do them. Otherwise, I'm walking around in the dark, you know.
Big time.
That actually ties into the thought tools that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we're saying how we have certain moods. And sometimes, I think there's two big moods, and especially with us. We go on either on a creative tangent where ideas are popping out left, right, and center, and nothing's getting caught and it's getting crazy. We're bouncing from one idea to the next. I think that in those moments of those explosions of creative thought, I think there's a few tools that can help. One being the voice memos that we talked about.
Yep.
2, doing a little brainstorm session like we have, just jotting down little dot points of things, coming back to them. Don't worry about finishing a full sentence. Talking a recorded conversation, because you know I can listen back later on.
Exactly.
Which we wrote down as well. Having the freedom to maybe even draw. Maybe I like to quickly draw things, and you know what I mean. And then when I calm down and this tangent of mine settles, and I'm more have more clarity in my thought and my speech, then I would review them or listen to it or whatever it is. And then I think that a structured way of thinking is to write them down. Write them down to the clear, full sentence, coherent A and B sort of speech. This is what I thought, and this is what I think of that thought, you know? And then, but it's the process you were talking about before is get it down, like catch the idea.
Catch the idea, number one.
Yeah.
Make sure you catch it in its natural of its form and essence
raw,
as you can.
natural, unrefined form.
Yeah.
And then later on review it, and then make it more coherent. And that determines how good of an artist you are.
Because
to reform it and make it as best as you can.
Because each idea, potential is a big theme for me, and it's kind of a recent one in terms of it's been there for like I started stumbling upon the idea and concept of potential like maybe a year ago, but recently in the past maybe 6-7 months have I tried to focus on it as an actual topic that I can delve into. And ideas are a part of that potential. Ideas are a part of that potential because, when you have an idea, that's a small, tiny little bit. That's a small little bit of your potential. The potential can be something that can be something else. Okay, so anything potential can be described as like the ability and possibilities. Okay, people often say latent ability, potential, blah blah blah. These are things that are possible. Anything is possible. An idea is one bit of that. You need to catch it in as quickly and in that form as best you can. So the voice memos were our first one. As soon as the idea came, bang, open the phone up, voice memo, and just spit it out there as naturally as you can. Because of course there'll be other things firing and you'll go off little tangents. And then even in that same voice memo, what I'll do is, let's say I'll say the idea like, okay, great ways to improve in isolation. And then I'll go through it and it'll be very backwards. I'll leave the note on, I'll leave the note on and I'll say, okay, try again. And in the same note, I'll try and re-clarify the thoughts again. And then I'll try maybe one more time. And then I'll end the note. And that note won't even be that long. You'll see it could only be 2 minutes. Okay? It doesn't take that long to say something as opposed to writing it. And then that way, when I've sat on that and you've left that note there for a few days and you come back to it, you have more insights into it. You slept on the idea, you know, you let it settle. And when you're writing, those things will start firing again. Those same ideas and processes. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, because you're hearing yourself say it just as you thought it. It's igniting that thought again. Yeah.
Yeah, that is important. I actually wrote something down that sort of mimics that. And I was saying that our ideas at the time are like the clay in a sculpture. But portraying them clearly is how I present and make that sculpture. And how good I am at that process of cultivating my ideas and the clay into a sculpture is what ranks me as an artist.
Yeah.
That's what determines how good I am, you know, because anyone can sort of fumble about their ideas and write them down and it's not coherent. But if I make it clear and concise and you get exactly my whole process of what I just did, then that shows my level of intelligence, you know?
And what you just did in terms of creating an analogy and what I attempted to do with the fucking nail, that's another tool I've just thought that is useful for clarifying ideas. Well, even it helps yourself when you try to frame your idea in another. It'll put the same picture in another frame. Bang.
Oh,
that's probably out there. That's probably out there somewhere. But you want to put the same picture in another frame. Say, oh, legend. Thanks. Like same picture, another frame, new idea. So if you think about that, what does it give you as a benefit? It gives you more understanding of your own idea, because when you see something from a different perspective, you're seeing it in a different light. You're seeing a new angle of something else. So you know how two people can understand the same idea but they can be looking at it differently?
Yeah.
It's like looking at I've been drawing recently, and what they're talking about is shading, some very basic stuff. So I just drew a circle and I tried to shade it in. And you have to imagine, and you actually draw the arrow for the light source. So I'll draw a circle, draw an arrow here, so you visually know where the light's hitting it, and you shade based on that. And then I was like, oh, that's mad, I did a real good shading. Then another fucking super simple one was another light source. So there's another light source here, and there's a light source there. You got to take them both into your perspective,
right.
And then start trying to shade based on that. Okay, that'll create a shade here, shade there. But that's the same thing with ideas. It's like looking at one thing from two different angles, but it's the same thing, and you learn more about it. You don't just know about this one side, you know. So trying to frame things in an analogy or with language in describing it in different ways is a great tool, I think, for understanding more about your idea.
Yeah.
That's like what we just did just then. You had an analogy, and our tool we have is to constantly like dissect things. So we just dissect it and like kind of kill it till it's dead, like you just said.
Yeah. So, even if it's just for us, you know what I mean? Even if it's just for us to understand our own thought patterns better, but I guess as a natural side effect is that it's going to help the viewers and the listeners and whoever else that I'm trying to convey the message to understand it better anyway, you know? Big so it's time. Like a twofold thing.
Exactly. But exactly, double-edged sword that.
Yeah, why not, yeah. What else are we going through? Video recordings of the visualization of my future. Paradigm shift. That you're talking about. When you were saying the paradigm shift, 7 habits of highly effective people. Yeah. The drawing of the old woman and the young woman.
Yeah.
I just read that part as well. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's what a paradigm shift is.
Yeah, that's good. I think they're a little bit different, but the same.
It's like an optical illusion of a drawing, and it's sort of shaded in one way, and then it makes you think, oh, it's a young, attractive woman, you know, very fashionable. But then you look at it again, it's shaded in the opposites. So instead of black and white, it's white and black. And you actually see the same image, but you see an old lady, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And depending on sometimes it depends on your surroundings and your thought patterns and my own sort of framework of thinking to how I view this image.
That's perspective. Perspective is so powerful. Like, I think what we were describing earlier was me trying to say, you know the same idea or same thing, but just know more of it by looking at it from different angles. And a paradigm shift or a perspective shift is seeing something actually completely differently by changing where you stand.
Yeah.
So that's like one that happened for me just recently. So I was in the park this morning, and I was with Felicia. We're on the bench. I just finished my PT. She finished working out. And I'm like, I'm going to run through a quick meditation, whatever. So I'm sitting on the bench, she's sitting there too. And I start meditating. And this is also a testament to being able to step back a little bit. Okay, it's something I need to develop more. I started closing my eyes and meditating. And after I got into a pretty good place I was happy with. I'm realizing now, it must have been going for a while because I started realizing other things again. and I like realize I just hear like sounds of her shifting in her seat, yeah, and I'm like, to me instantly I was like, oh, she must be keen to leave, because that was our plan anyway. As soon as we finish, you work out, we're gonna bounce. So I'm like, oh, she must be keen to leave. I'm like, okay, but I'm enjoying this meditation right now. I'm like, yeah, I'll stick to the meditation for a bit. I was like, but I shifted my perspective, and I was like, wait, she could just be readjusting herself in her chair. She could, let's say it was like a really serious thing where you're like, oh, this person's getting really antsy, or they could be really enjoying the moment. Let's flip it completely.
Yeah.
They could really actually be enjoying the moment and being like, all right, let me sit back and like settle in and like really enjoy, you know, the moment that's happening right here. But with my eyes closed, it was a perfect example of perspective shift. And I noticed it as well, and then I was like, all right, that means you've been meditating too long. Get up.
That's a good way of thinking about it though, yeah. With everything as well.
With everything, it's a perspective shift, and you can choose how you want to think.
Oh, that reminds me.
Choose.
That reminds me of this guy that I had a bit of an altercation with at work, and I confronted him out the front.
Yeah.
We're in the car park, and I'm like, you know, like here and now, like I'm not going to put up with it, whatever. And he started putting his headphones in, and I'm like, how's the audacity on this guy? Like, is he trying to piss me off? And I'm fired up instantly. I'm like, he's ignoring me right in my face. He's putting the headphones in while I'm trying to talk to him, have a serious talk. And I was fuming, man. And then I let it go. I walked away, and he comes over to me later on, and he goes, hey man, like, are we cool? And I'm like, yeah man, but it's all good. He's like, I'm sorry, this and that. And he goes, you know, I had to put the headphones in because I was getting scared. Yeah. And I'm like, oh wait, what? He was just trying to shut it off.
Yeah, because it's a reaction.
But to me, I'm like, he's being a smartass. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if I had that opposite thought of he's just scared, I'm scaring him, maybe I should calm down.
But it's hard to do in the moment. Why? Because of emotion.
Yes.
And that's why emotion is another thing we've got to control. I had so many situations like that, like we both even know. Like, yeah, I've had so many altercations I almost got. Like, remember when we were at Welcome to Thornbury? Yeah. And this guy's talking shit, blah, 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 like outside, and then I go, and then he calls me out on it, and I go, fuck it, then. All right, I grab the bottle, I go, I'm just going to we'll just go, whatever. I'll just go. So I'll start walking. And then luckily you called me back. And the bitch had a taser. Yeah. Which is a good thing. You probably like, it could have been so much worse than what it is. Or whatever could happen, whatever. But I remember thinking back later on, I was like, this is why you've got to not react so easily to these things, because one day you're going to fucking jump into something and who knows what might happen, because that's a real outcome, a real consequence. Yeah. But at the same time, it's also like, it's also a good example of how emotions can play a role. Whereas if that happened now, maybe depending on my mood, okay, but I would like to think that right now I'd be like, don't got time for it, move on. It's not even someone I'm there. If it's at work, it's like, all right, we're already personal because we're here. Yeah.
But that's another thing, because some areas you need to confront it. It doesn't always have to be.
Well, I'm going to come into work every day and be like, I'm not going to be squash it right here. Figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Otherwise, it becomes this massive issue. I'm feeling like shit every day. I'm dreading going there because this is
like, get it out the way, get it done.
Squash it right there.
You know how they always say that's a big rep.
That is a big rep. That's true.
And it's maybe you don't have to do that every single time, but
you only have to confront a bully once. You know the whole metaphor. You say it once. Let's sort it out right here and right now. The worst possible outcome is this. Let's face it head on. And 9 times out of 10,
that's a big rep.
It's not going to happen.
And that's an idea that reps in these kind of mental reps have different loads. So if you think about just doing a simple bicep curl with 10 kilogram biceps, 10 kilogram. Fuck, would those be solid biceps?
I don't know.
That's heavy bicep. Well, let's say, look, 10 kilogram dumbbells. Yeah. Okay. Let's say for me, one simple one I've done for over a year now. When I decided to start doing these little things, I go, I'm going to end every single shower with a 5-second cold blast. Every single one, doesn't matter. And it was super hard to do at the start. 6-7 months, sometimes it's harder. Most of the time it's easy. You finish the shower, bang. But every time you do it, it's that muscle of, I don't want to do this. Why am I going to get cold? But I do it. Not because I'm going to get any benefit from that little 10-second blast now, but I'm just sitting there thinking, this is a rep here to do something I don't want. So when I go in the ocean and people have been going, how are you going? And I'm like, it's easy. And then people point out to me like, because they know about the other things. Oh, but you did that first. I go, oh yeah, that's true. You build these things up. So then you do this. So this morning one was a hard one because it was like 6:30 a.m. It's fucking freezing outside. Even to step outside, I was cold. And I'm like, why am I hopping in this fucking water, this ocean? Yeah, it's it's not like in a shower, you got to take shit off, it's cold. I'm like, I'm going to do it because those little reps have helped. Maybe that's like if the shower is a 1 kilo dumbbell, jumping in that ocean is like a 20 kilo dumbbell.
It's a good analogy.
If that one is your one, doing something different. Now I'm going to love these analogies. Then yours will be the same in terms of like, all right, that was a pretty heavy repetition there to really test myself. But sometimes it's just, you just do it so that you know, and then you'd go, okay, I don't need to.
Yeah. Because remember we were talking, and this relates back to personal development, because if we have this ideal version of who it is that we want to be, and sometimes we attach a metaphor like yours with the king analogy. If I want to be a king, I need to grow into my boots, you know, they're big boots to fill, but I need to do these reps for that, you know. So whether it's those cold showers and they're slight reps, but if your potential and your vision is so much greater, then you need to take those steps one after the other to get there.
Necessary, very necessary. And that's the thing. Yeah.
That was a good one. Then what did we lead into from there? I was thinking this sort of leads to the same thing. If I want to be the best version of me, I need to confront and deal with everything that's real. So sometimes I think about my emotions, and sometimes I think, I'm embarrassed to say this or I'm embarrassed to say that. Like, that's an embarrassing feeling. Yeah. But I'm like, well, regardless of who anyone portrays themselves to be, we all feel the same emotions, but we just portray them differently, and some people hide them, you know. Some people that you might think have better control just have better tools. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a strength to be able to talk. You know how they say like a real man wears pink? Yeah. It's the same thing, because it's so hard for a man to talk about his emotions, because you feel vulnerable and that. But if I shine a light on them, and I know that this is you take my emotion, I own that. I'm strong for that. You know, like it's respected, and I know it's there. And trust me, people see that in a massive way. Even from my, like how you dealt with the knee thing and whatnot, is like seeing that people see, and they, especially in this day and age, they really respect it. Why? Because they know the difficulty in it. That's when I think respect from afar usually comes from when people know the difficulty in doing something themselves. So people might see me jumping in the ocean and doing whatever, and then they go, I really respect that. Whereas for me, it might be really easy now to do those kind of things. Like I just forced it to be a thing. And then people might see you doing it. Like for me, I saw it, I was like, fuck, that's really good. Like, such a powerful tool. And it shows like a lot of strength. Yeah. And it's a different type of strength. Not like the strength of like thing, because that is a real thing, and there are benefits and there are also negatives. But that's also a strength. That's a big strength to be, because then it's like people aren't gonna catch you off. It's like what you've done would catch other people off guard, and it could put them. If you think about a weakness as something that makes you a bit, not safe. That's where all those things come from. People are like, oh, I don't want to speak about my emotions as a guy because I'll be subject to ridicule from the boys or whatever the fuck it is, or it could be a personal thing. I might feel it will counter with my self-image as like a tough guy, as a tough, strong bloke doing his thing. No, I'm not going to talk about it. But when you do it and you're also doing those other things, fuck, I reckon you're killing it. Yeah. Because if you shine a light on that, and I put it out there, it reminds me of 8 Mile when Eminem bags himself. Yeah. Like if I bag myself, how can you bag me? I just own that. You say anything, you look like an idiot. Yeah. I just did that. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing as if I put my emotions out there. Like it was a big thing to talk about having a tumor and shit. Like it's sort of nerve wracking. I feel like thought of a shit house analogy. I'm not going to say go on. But tumor. Yeah, putting it like it's sort of personal. It's a little bit. I felt embarrassed in a way. I'm like, I can't believe I've got a tumor. Am I infected or something? Yeah. But I'm like, it is what it is. I have a tumor in my leg. Whatever. This is the process that happens. This is what I go through. I put it out there. It's tough, especially because I'm not very comfortable with talking about those things. But I went through the process of doing that, and then I come out of it unscathed, which is good. But I also come out of it stronger for talking about it and putting it out there. And now you can't it's no longer a weakness. Yeah, not at all. Because I owned that. That's a big talent when you convert a perceived weakness into a strength. Bang, you're literally transforming things. Like that's it. And people really, like I said, people really respect that. Yeah, it's fucking reminds me of Guy Ritchie, how he says, I'm gonna wear the suit, but I'm gonna own the suit. Exactly. You have to. Because there's a big difference between both things. And I was thinking as well that when you do those uncomfortable reps at the start, it's sort of like this podcast, Because if we have this whole mentality about being a player one in the game of life, and we are still very young players in this game, it's sort of like, oh, well, who do you think you are to even make a podcast and be an authority? Like, where's your qualification to have a voice? Well, all the greats start somewhere. Exactly. All great ideas start as a little incubator.
Imagine Joe Rogan when he first had his podcast.
Yeah. If anyone's seen episode 1, then you know how fucking crazy it is that he stuck to it in the first place.
And that's where one of my traits that can also be one of the sins in terms of pride comes in, because for me, it's starting a podcast, and then the same thought, like you said, everyone has the same thoughts, but they deal with it differently. The same thought would come to my head, like, okay, what if people are going to be like, oh, what are these kids starting a podcast and trying to give advice for? Like, they don't know anything. And I go, but fuck them, because I don't really care. And not really fucking in a negative way, just like, I think about it, not really kill it until it's dead, but I think about it and be like, no.
I'm not going to change for them, you know.
And I'll do it. But one thing I was going to raise was one thing that's an analogy I've heard was I saw on Facebook ages ago when I first signed up to Limitless. It was, don't be afraid to shine your own light, because it might give other people the courage to shine theirs. True. And as one of your values being as a good person, a good guy, and it's also one of my values to try and like help others when I can, is, okay, the people that are going to react negatively, it's kind of on them, and I'm not going to, I could, but I'm not giving myself the responsibility to cater to those people. The people that will react well, I'll get the positivity from that, because the happiness, because I know that they'll see that and they'll say, fuck, that's good. Maybe they'll do that too. And yeah, it's good.
That's true. That reminds me of the whole, when you start a business, you have to have a target audience.
Yeah.
You know? It's the same with the podcast. We have a target audience. Certain people will attract to our ideas. We're not going to capture everyone. How can we? How can you capture everyone anyway? You know, like, we're all different and we agree upon different things. So I should never be worried about pleasing the masses, because I never can anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I have to just do the best that I can. Whoever catches on will catch on. And whoever doesn't, then that's fine, you know? I'm not going to get everyone, and I have to know that.
Yeah. Talk to you and develop and grow those ideas that will only get support back. So with that, we realized we had like some benefit in that, and we're like, why don't we record this, put it out there,
and share
so
that,
we're going to take that to the next level, not just give you like conversations, but as part of our growth, anything that Josh would send to me or I would send to Josh, which is a lot of things that we find, we'll include this
to all of you guys, share with you guys, well. Because the podcast is, and it started and it always will be, it's a genuinely fun canvas for us to paint and present our ideas to you.
Yeah. And thoughts and
as coherently the best we can. So
that's a great way to describe it.
Stick around, upgrade with us. Player 1, episode 8.
Testicles.